all the speakers away, by the way. That sucks.
Oh, what?
Yeah?
Why you let her do that?
So how are we supposed to hear like the sounds? What sex is supposed
Imagine.
to sound like?
Think about a boot stuck in mud, only wetter.
Hey, you look nice on
Or
camera.
a
That'd be
good bowl
on.
of macaroni and cheese.
All right, so let's talk about sex. Here's what we're going to talk about. So the agenda of the day. I'll try to stay relatively quick here.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry. The agenda of the day is this. We're going to talk about. Let's talk about what happens during this what we call sexual response cycle. This is really what your final is going to be on. Okay. Because I am going to ask you to write 4 paragraphs, and I'll talk about formatting and things like that a little later. But what I really want you to focus on is the sexual response cycle. There's 4 stages to the sexual response cycle. So let's go over those right now. All right, so the first stage is called stimulation or excitement or arousal. Now, here's a question. What sex organ can enlarge 100 times? The vagina. Holy shit. Get sucked right in there.
The pituitary gland?
No.
No.
I could literally
It's the primary sex organ.
Oh, a primary sex organ. The penis?
You wish. The thing would look like a missile.
Wow.
What's the primary sex organ? What do we use to become aroused or stimulated?
Our eyes.
Our eyes, our pupil.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, the pupil can enlarge 100 times. You are going to be sorely disappointed, honey, if you think that's going to happen. By the way, how many times can the human penis enlarge or engorge itself? Well, what multiple can it grow? Now we know, what's the saying? Some men are what and some men are what?
Showers and growers.
Some men are showers and some men are growers. What they simply mean is some men have in a flaccid or non-erect state, the great portion of their penis size is already there. It just becomes erect and it usually enlarges 1.5 to maybe twice the size. But showers, or growers rather, the penis looks rather unimpressive in a flaccid state. However, can grow up to 3.5 times its flaccid state. So you never know. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a man when he gets out of the pool. Okay?
It was cold that night.
Yeah. We're going ice skating. This is not a good time to kind of decide if this is the man you want to be with, right?
Sweet to the blue.
Stop moving in front as I'm trying to write. I'm not going to be in here.
It's okay. I'm here for you. Stimulation, excitement, arousal. So, what happens during this stage? Physiologically, yes?
You're noticing whichever person you're. It's not dopamine, is it? Like your body starts. I lost it.
Basically, you look at this person like, dang, you look good.
Not
Yes.
just that, but like
But you can't,
physiologically,
hold on.
like.
What I'm talking about is what happens to your body during this stage. So I look across the room and I see someone's attractive. I'd like to try to see if I can make this happen, right? And guys, we do all kinds of dopey shit. We run over and start talking to you or trying to do whatever it is we are to try to make that happen. And women, we just kind of sit back and watch the show and watch us go through all our emotions. We have no clue what we're doing. But men engage just like we do in the wild. We peacock, right? The flashes and the jewels, and we're just kind of sitting up there going, look over here, look over here, right? So that's really what we're doing, is we're peacocking. We're trying to attract a mate. Women, I got news for you, you do it too. Makeup, hair. What did Chris Rock say? He goes, you have makeup on, you don't look like that. He goes,
See, that's the good thing about me.
you got bras that push things up and they're not there when you take it off, so we all peacock a little bit. Okay? And it's okay, but all of this is done to encourage attraction and to begin this cycle, which is hopefully ending in procreation. Okay? That's the purpose of all of this.
Coitus.
Purpose of sexual act. Yes, sex is fun, sex is pleasurable. Why is sex pleasurable? From a biologic and from an evolutionary standpoint, why is sex pleasurable?
Releases chemicals in the body that increase pleasure.
Yes, yes, it does all that, but why?
Operate on a reward system.
It operates on a reward system. What's the reward?
Maybe. Orgasm.
More people.
Oh, yeah.
This only works because we keep making more people.
Be fruitful.
That's why sex is pleasurable. That's why eating certain foods or engaging in certain behaviors is pleasurable. So it makes your brain's telling you, I like that, keep doing it. Because if sex wasn't pleasurable, and the only thing you ladies got was to push out a bowling ball every 9 months without some benefits and then some rewards to, like the oxytocin that's released in new mothers and new babies and having that bonding and, oh, it feels so good, my baby. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't do it.
The bowling ball wouldn't happen.
Bowling ball wouldn't happen. Exactly. You get that thing away from me, you ain't putting that
Like,
there.
what's that?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Get it out of here.
Oh,
It's
my
like a snail wearing a sweater, right?
Oh, my God.
Get it away. So during the stimulation, arousal, excitement phase, certain things happen to us physiologically. Now let's talk about our nervous systems here. Okay, we have a sympathetic nervous system. We've talked about this. We have a parasympathetic nervous system. What happens when our sympathetic nervous system kicks in? Physiologically, what happens to our body? If I walk out of here, look down the hall, and there's a lion, what's going to happen to my body? What starts happening?
Your fight or flight, your body. Like,
Yeah, after I clean the crap up in my pants.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
What happens during the fight or flight?
You're preparing, your body's preparing itself, something with your oxygen. It's like
Yes, again.
getting built up, ready to like
Yes,
take off.
what specifically is happening to my body?
Especially shutting down non-essential parts that you won't need.
Good. So things like digestion decrease. What else is happening? Like what's going on?
Heart rate
Anxiety.
increases.
Heart rate increases.
Adrenaline starts to flow.
Adrenaline starts to kick in. My respiration. So, and what is this doing? So, yes, that's fine. I get some vasodilation. My veins start to expand. More blood is flowing. I start breathing faster. I'm taking in more oxygen to put into my blood system to get to my muscles.
You don't cuss.
Because oxygen, yeah, exactly. Oxygen is the fuel for your muscles. That's what's burning. That's why I need to start breathing more. And my body's preparing for physical activity. Okay? Intense physical activity. Hopefully during this process, intense physical activity. Right? Should be. If it's not, you're not doing it right.
Right. You're doing it right.
So, kidding, not kidding. So these things happen during the excitement stage. Okay? Palms become a little sweaty, a little bit. Okay? Start getting a little nervous, start feeling flush in the face. This is all a reaction to the sympathetic nervous system. We'll talk about our disorders here in a little bit. During phase 2, we call this the plateau. Plato. Plateau. Just means flat, table, top. This is a plateau. It's not going to get any higher, it's not going to get any lower. This is simply the peak. This just means I'm excited, I'm into this, I'm aroused. I can't become any more aroused, I'm into it, let's go.
Right.
And we're engaging in sexual behavior. The plateau can last seconds, I need to write this down, seconds to hours. The plateau can last seconds to hours. And in cases of sexual dysfunction, when we have things, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, like male orgasmic disorder, female orgasmic disorder, it's an inability to reach the next stage, which is orgasm and release.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. It's not that it's not pleasurable, it's fine, we just don't give the big name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's like lighting off a firework and there's no pop. Okay, it's fun, and it's great, and I'm into it, I just can't get to that level.
Right.
That's why when we say it lasts seconds to hours, and the other side of that is premature ejaculation, where men ejaculate or have an orgasm too quickly where they're unable to complete the rest of a normative sex act. Now, how long is average for penetrative penis vagina sex? How long is the actual penetrative, the average? I'm not asking now, I do not want your experience, okay? I don't want to know, I want to know, but I don't want, like in the Jerry Springer way, I want to know what goes on, but I don't want to know what goes on in your bedroom. I want you to know what the science says about this.
I would say, what, 30 minutes?
30 minutes?
I'm gonna say 2 to 5.
2 to 5?
Between 8 to 15 minutes.
You guys are a lot closer. If you ask women, women always give a higher estimate. It should be this. You ask guys, guys go, no, you get 3 pumps and that's it. That's all you're getting. No. Listen, what I'm saying though is the average penetrative sex with men and women, once we get to penetrative sex, is usually about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, so it's pretty close.
You guys were close. You guys were right about there. It's about 5 to 7 minutes. Now, it doesn't include things like foreplay. There are ways to extend lovemaking. There are ways to extend sexual acts. There are ways to delay. There's called a pull technique. Okay. Now, what happens during orgasm and release, which is the next phase? Now, this process lasts seconds. Men are women last seconds. We're going to talk about some other things that happen during that, immediately following that in a minute. But what happens during, now look, we have in men, the testicles are, there's these called seminiferous tubules that sit on top of the testicle. It's a little gland. This is what produces the actual sperm.
Is that the vas deferens?
Yes, there's a vas deferens and seminiferous tubules up there. And they produce the sperm. We have different glands, okay, like prostates and things that produce seminal fluid, the actual fluid that the semen goes into. During ejaculation, the testicles will pull up underneath and prepare for ejaculation. There is a technique called the pull technique where you, look at me, gently pull the scrotum down right before, yeah, you're not taking a paper towel off a rack. You're not.
Just
all right.
This has been proven.
This has been proven. It's called a pull technique. There's a squeeze technique, which trying not to bowl over in pain thinking about this, but gently squeezing the top of the testicles or the penis to squeeze what because you're doing. That's what an erection is a lot of blood flow.
Right.
So if you squeeze the head of the penis, you'll notice that the head of the penis can detract, kind of like a marshmallow.
Yeah.
You push it back and it'll come up and squeeze back up, but blood flow is necessary for ejaculation because that's what it is. It's those contractions, okay, that push the semen out. It's amazing to me that we are all adults and we're just all turned into 5-year-olds.
I'm learning some new shit.
This is
I'm just
Yeah.
like now I
I'm
can
about to
put
make my own hypothesis.
I can put negatives with my
Huh?
action.
I'm gonna go home and study.
You're gonna home study? Yeah. Nobody's failing. Literally none of you are failing this test.
Now I can put scientific, you know.
You're gonna go home tonight
information
and
on
try to
what
get
I
your
want.
partner to watch porn. And it's for psychology class. Dr. Quall said we need to do this.
Like, hey, I gotta sleep.
Don't put me on the hook for it.
So who will you come?
No, you know what?
No, see, you're paper towel. It's not a sponge.
It's like a.
Look, here's what it is, folks. Come back to me. So we have the penis and the scrotum's underneath. What you do is because the testicles are going to retract up underneath. So what you do is gently pull down, and it will delay. Let me be clear about this. It's not going to stop ejaculation or orgasm from happening. It delays it and can extend it, even if it's for a second to a couple of seconds. It can be extremely pleasurable for the man. Now, I get asked a lot about. Let's just skip right ahead through a lot of the uncomfortable stuff. The prostate massage.
Oh.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay? You've ever seen the South Park? Yeah. Some people like it. Some men like it. Some men say absolutely not. You'll lose a finger. It's a real thing. Okay? It's actually a term called milking the prostate that they will do. The prostate can become enlarged if men do not engage in regular ejaculation through masturbation or through coital sex. Yeah, absolutely. So they can go in, and that's what a practitioner will do, is essentially milk the prostate. And oftentimes they can do that during like artificial insemination or when men are making sperm deposits. If they need assistance, that's what they can do. So and a lot of men, once they get over the stigma of a finger in your butt, because that's the only way to get to the prostate, got news for you,
Right.
right? I hear a lot of young guys, like anybody in this room is under 40, that's some men, that we're gonna go, not letting a doctor put their finger in my butt for that annual exam you get when you hit 40, that's your birthday present. Hey, I'm 40, bend over and shh, right? And then you turn 40 and you go, yeah, I totally want, it's not that I want a guy's finger in my butt, I want the doctor's finger to check me out because I don't want prostate cancer.
Right.
And it becomes an incredibly important exam. So,
Just like a mammogram.
yeah, like a
We
mammogram.
don't want our boobs to be squeezed.
Squeezed,
but,
yeah,
I mean,
that's-
Right, by a machine, like.
Right. I mean, a few women do, but that's usually about $50, right?
Yeah.
All right, we better get back to this. Yeah.
I know with different partners and stuff like that, like the time that will change for like the whole plateau and the orgasm will change
Yes.
per partner. Reading on some things like newer partners have a tendency to be less time in sexual activity versus.
Yeah, so if the relationship is new, oftentimes, oddly enough, the plateau can be a lot longer than it can in like issues of people who are married for any period of time. And the reason is, it has to deal with focus and attention and the areas that you're focusing and attending to. So, if I'm married for 20 years, the newness phase, and we're going to talk about a romance project that I was crunching someday. I'd love to say it was my project. It wasn't. It was Dr. Jeff Bryson's at San Diego State. Great project. About romance and passion and how long that lasts. So when we become comfortable with each other's rhythm sexually, the focus, I stop, I'm not talking about me, I'm saying just if I was an average guy here, that during sex with my wife of 20 years, I stopped really kind of focusing on the things that I used to do with her, and I focus on just kind of trying to knock it out of the park and get to the finish line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sex
It's like
time,
after so long.
it can actually decrease because I'm just focused on getting done. When you're in a new relationship, the plateau can be quite longer because I'm focused on my partner, not myself. So I'm not just focused on that sensation. I'm focused on, ooh, we're going to do this to her, and wow, I never saw that on her before. And getting the feet and really wanting her, taking care of her in this act, and slowing down and really enjoying the process. And oddly enough, we stop doing that in longer term relationships.
Why?
And why? Because we get comfortable.
Yeah.
We get comfortable.
Well, that makes sense, but like you. Oh, sorry.
It would be, but it's familiarity. It's that old saying, familiarity breeds contempt, and it really is. The more familiar and close we are with each other, the less patience and tolerance that we exhibit with each other. So, you might say, all of you, somebody here might go, I hate people who wear Levi's. Hate them. But, Dr. Koala, I'm here once a week. I can tolerate it once a week. But imagine what happens if we're roommates. How long do you think you're going to be able to bite your tongue now? You're not bite your tongue.
Right.
Can you please take those damn things? Do you know what a pair of slacks is? It's called slacks. They look nice. Take that shit off. You'll start doing that stuff. So we do the same thing with sex. We start paying less and less attention to our partner's rhythms and the things that are exciting and stimulating about them, and we just start focusing on this. We just start focusing on
That's
it.
no fun.
And it's not.
Well, it's kind of like you know where you need to hit. And it's like,
Right.
okay, I just do this, bada bing, bada boom, we're done, I can go sleep.
Yeah, how is it
Well,
the
yeah,
same
I
time?
think
How is it the
that-
same thing every time? Or it seems like we're doing the same position, or we do this, like it's almost like if I can say, okay, we're gonna have sex tomorrow night, and this is exactly what it's gonna look like. We'll turn on the TV, we'll lock the door, we're gonna go take a shower, we're gonna lay down, you'll start here, I'll start here, we'll meet in the middle for the big finish. It's like, if that's your routine,
There's
because I know what's going to happen, I don't need to pay attention to you. I know what's going to happen. We've done this 100,000 times.
Well, what if I come home one day and I'm gonna slide some shit around?
And that's fine.
Baby.
But this is the difference between what Dr. John Gottman would call masters and disasters in relationships. This guy studied, we've talked a little bit about Gottman, but we're going to talk a lot about some of his theories today. He says that there are masters of marriage, and nobody knows more about relationships than Dr. John Gottman. Nobody. Because he's studied them for 40 years. Dr. John Gottman.
Oh,
He noticed, he goes, we watched couples, he goes, we didn't help anybody. For 25 years, we didn't help anybody. He goes, we just kind of watched people disintegrate. He goes, because what we noticed early on in our studies is that couples who started to receive therapy divorced and ended their relationships a lot more than people who didn't get therapy before we really knew a whole lot about what was going on. So he goes, we just made a decision not to help anybody. Because before you can really kind of try to work on cancer, you have to really know what cancer is. So that's what he really did. He had an apartment clinic, so he would pay for couples to come in and start and live in these apartments in his clinic, and they had cameras up. And they would take like blood pressure, and they would take blood samples to find out levels of things like cortisol and hormones in their systems when they were fighting. So he noticed, and he said the hypothesis was this, that the people who were successful in their marriages and had successful sex lives would be similar in some way, that we can identify and predict. And then the same thing with disastrous couples. That disastrous couples would kind of have these patterns that we could produce. And what they really kind of found out was that people who engaged these disasters of marriage and sex and relationships were all unique in their own way. They all completely fucked up their marriages and their relationships in their own unique way. But there were some commonalities, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later, but I want to finish this discussion here. So orgasm and release, plateau lasts how long? Seconds to hours, and then again, barring dysfunction where we have those orgasmic disorders. Okay? Orgasm and release lasts seconds. Now, if women have the ability to sustain, as many women do, to be multi-orgasmic, there's different ways that they can re-enter this cycle. They can re-go here. They can't even recycle back into orgasm and have multiple orgasms. For men, it's not that it's not a physical process. Of course it is. Okay? You have spasms of the outer vaginal walls. Inner vaginal walls have contraction. Okay? So it is a physical process, but for men, we're excreting fluid and have to produce material. Okay? And that can take a while. This is what we call a refractory period.
I was getting ready to say that, but you beat me to it.
Yes, ma'am. The refractory period is defined as a period of time where men have the inability to either maintain an erection or reach the orgasm and release phase again. Usually, now it can be shorter, it's a very individualistic thing, but traditionally it's a shorter refractory period in younger men and a longer period in older men. As we get older, it takes a little longer. And usually it's a period of a couple of hours, usually. The last phase here is called resolution. This is where we have completed the act, and our body has to return to a state. So, if our sympathetic nervous system kicks in here at stimulation, excitement, and arousal, and that's our sympathetic nervous system, what's going to happen during resolution?
P1.
P1.
Yeah.
What's it called?
The Perry something.
Parasympathetic.
Perry.
Yeah, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic nervous system is going to kick in and reverse the things physiologically that happen here. Okay, redness, swelling, nipples become erect, pupils dilate, palms become sweaty, respiration, breathing, heart rate, all those things kind of increase. What's that?
Physical reactions.
Physical reactions, yes. The genitals swell, right? The clitoris starts to swell and become more sensitive. Engorged, yes. The head of the penis, the source of stimulation in the man, is underneath the hood of the penis, right? So you have the shaft, the hood, it's right underneath there. That's where the nerve endings are most concentrated. So during the resolution stage, parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and we start to reduce our physiological arousal state. Okay? That's what we call a ham sandwich and a nap, right? Time to eat, time to sleep, rub my back, right?
Or something.
Yeah, or something. So let's talk about some disorders that occur, because in your papers, I'm going to ask you to write one paragraph describing in graphic detail, not your experiences, please.
We got it, Dr. K.
I'm going to say this, but this happened this semester. I had a student, what's that?
Were you reading your paper and she said, in my experience?
Yes, please don't do that. No, I'm going to say this, and for all of you watching at home, when you're writing a college paper, don't use the word boner. Please use the word erection. Please use clinical terms. And don't tell me about your personal experience with men or women, okay? Again, I'd love to know about in your college paper, okay? You want to pay me $150 an hour? I'll listen to anything you want to say.
Hey, I got Medicaid stuff. Blue Cross Blue Shield, take that in.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think. Blue Cross.
Okay.
But you're my student, so I couldn't do
Him too.
You take not him, you take him.
You
that.
said Cobra?
Oh, okay.
I take Oprah. I take Oprah. Oprah
Wow,
insurance.
Cobra.
Cobra.
Yeah.
Oh, you said, okay.
All right, we're moving on. So, this is the sexual response cycle. I want you to be familiar with it, and then in your papers, I'm also going to ask you to identify at least one sexual dysfunction that occurs at every stage of this. Okay.
So a sexual dysfunction for each.
Sexual dysfunction, or yes, sexual disorder that occurs at every one
So
of those.
in-
We're getting ready to talk about those.
Okay. In stage 1, you could necessarily say where a man could not get an erection.
Yeah. Now, erectile dysfunction. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about ED, erectile dysfunction.
I don't touch.
I need you guys to pay attention. At what stage is erectile dysfunction an issue here?
I would say, what do we plateau?
Or between.
Here's why. In most cases of men, an erectile dysfunction is defined as a man who has difficulty maintaining or achieving an erection. Either I can't get one, or I can get one and it's not a full erection, or I have problems maintaining it through the completion of the sexual response cycle. Okay? Is arousal a problem for a man with erectile dysfunction in most cases?
No,
You
you
said
get aroused.
arousal.
I don't have a problem. I want to do this.
Right, it's just.
The
Things are not physiologically happening. Now, despite the colloquial name boner, there's no bone in the penis. It is a series.
All muscle.
Well, it's a series of channels of blood vessels,
Right.
and it's a rush of blood that engorges the penis. And what happens? One of the number one causes of erectile dysfunction would be what?
Not enough blood flow.
Lack of blood flow, but what could cause that? That would be a symptom, right? We have like vasoconstriction, the blood vessels constrict. What happens to cause that?
High blood pressure. Cholesterol? No?
Maybe blood clot.
Anxiety.
Oh.
Really?
Number one cause.
I'm right there. Right?
Anxiety. Here's why. I was actually having this discussion in the parking lot with a buddy of mine who plays hockey. I won't name you. But, and this is not indigenous to him. This happens to a great portion. Most men, over the course of their life, will have an experience that's very similar to this. Most men. Okay? He was telling me a story about how he was drinking rather heavily one night with his girlfriend and had trouble maintaining an erection, getting an erection, and I think he was he was a younger guy, and came to the understanding that it was because I was drinking. However, a couple days later, was engaging in sexual activity with his girlfriend. What do you think was going through his mind?
Oh, geez, I hope I can get it.
I'm not gonna be able to
Oh
get it.
God, man, I hope this doesn't happen. He wasn't drinking. Do you think he had a problem getting an erection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had that anxiety that from before.
As we've talked about with anxiety disorders, what happens during anxiety?
It's a buildup of your stress.
Sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Stress. I start worrying and thinking I'm not enjoying, I'm not in the experience, I'm not doing those things. Blood vessels can slam shut right during anxiety, can happen, and not allow blood flow to the penis to allow you to get an erection.
So can alcohol affect?
Absolutely, absolutely. But alcohol can desensitize, can deaden pain and desensitize pain receptors, right? Start
Yep.
getting that feeling of invincibility. Well, guess what I need to be able to feel for this to happen? I want sensitivity. That's why when you take things like drugs, because that's what drugs do, drugs desensitize you to pain, right? Releases of dopamine. People who are on PCP or cocaine and they get tased and it doesn't affect them, okay? But when they come down, they get really itchy because now the things they couldn't feel and the sensations they could not feel before, now their pain centers and their sensory receptors in their skin are hypersensitive, so they feel everything, right? So yes, drugs can affect that. Alcohol can affect that, absolutely. And especially if this is a repetitive pattern that starts happening a few times, no matter what the cause is, it's a confidence issue. It really is. And one of the worst things that's happened to sex therapy when it comes to things like erectile dysfunction was what? What do men do when they get erectile dysfunction?
They become depressed, maybe?
Well, they do, but what do? How do they fix this
They
issue?
take
Oh,
Viagra or
They take a pill.
Viagra.
Viagra, Cialis, Levitra. They take an erectile dysfunction pill. Now what they do, it doesn't firm up tissue. It relaxes the tissue in the body so blood can flow. And it works. The problem is that's like me having a chronic headache every day. I've got a really chronic headache, so what do?
Try to take them.
I take aspirin or something to alleviate the headache. The problem is I'm not treating what's causing the headache. I'm just symptom killing.
So it's just temporary.
Just temporary. Now, if there's a medical disorder, which are usually one of the research, outside of drugs causing erectile dysfunction, outside of those cases, one of the first pieces of research I ever said that less than 5% of erectile dysfunction cases were physiological. Now, I think it's grown since, so I'll have to check what number that is, what percentage of physiological based, but things like being overweight, that contributes. Hypertension, high blood pressure contributes. And sometimes we can't medicate you with Levitra, Cialis, Viagra, because some of the symptoms when you take these things, your face feels like it's on fire, increased blood flow, okay? Your heart starts beating like a rabbit, acid reflux, severe headaches, lots of blood flow, right? But we're not treating the anxiety or what's causing it in the first place. Instead of doing other sexually therapeutic techniques like non-demand pleasuring or demand pleasuring, okay? Non-demand pleasuring is usually used in cases of erectile dysfunction, or excuse me, premature ejaculation, when if I experience premature ejaculation, it's kind of like I'm lying there. Non-demand pleasuring, I am not allowed to ask my partner to do anything. My partner can do anything she wants, but I can't ask her to do anything, including going, I can't point to any areas, hence non-demand. Because essentially we're trying to redirect the pleasure, the pleasure stimulus of the body to other areas other than the genitals. And we have many erogenous zones in our body, and oftentimes we don't take the time to find out what those are.
The spots.
Kissing on the neck,
Yep, behind the
blowing on the ear, nibbling on the earlobe,
stomach,
a little chew on the shoulder,
side.
rubbing the stomach, yeah, all those things. And it's I say it's,
The dip in the back.
Hannah's smiling from ear to ear. She's like, I didn't say.
Back there now.
She's probably laughing at us.
Have you ever seen the old Muppet shows?
Yes.
The old original Muppet shows with
Yes.
the two old guys up in the loft?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
you guys.
Ah.
Yeah, it was good, yeah.
She's like,
So, it's incredibly important, and it's an incredibly useful tool in sexual therapy when I'm working with couples to get them to engage in non-demand pleasure use. And as a matter of fact, I'll say, at any point, I don't even want this sexual experience to end in orgasm and release. I don't want it to. Because when you start becoming aroused and you allow this without drugs or substances, when you allow this to be present without this and allow that to spill over, imagine how that's going to impact your relationship with the other person in a positive way.
So,
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and you're still really horny, you're still really stimulated and aroused, and first, you're not going to wake up with a grumpy look on your face, especially when we've agreed this is a plan that we're not going to let this happen. Ooh, baby, I can't wait till you get home tonight. Ooh, I'm going to tear you apart, right? I mean, you have that, and because oftentimes we have, I hear it every day in therapy, how do we rekindle this? They can do this, but they're usually doing this by themselves, or this isn't producing this. So how do we get stimulated and aroused? And I'm like, well, stop worrying so much about this. Stop worrying about the end goal. Enjoy the journey, man. Believe me, it's fun.
Enjoy.
It's not fun, you're not doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah, most people, I don't want to say my experience because that's just weird, but I can't really, like, it's not going to be sexual, but in my experience, like, it's not going to be weird. I found that most women are more easily excited through intimacy, like romance, more than like sexual endeavors.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a story. Hold on. Now let me bring this back to the research and John Gottman. John Gottman, when he was talking to a colleague of his, another doctor, who came up to him at a conference. And again, nobody knows more than this guy. He's really good. Very sweet man, too. And he says, he goes, you know, Dr. Gottman, he goes, I really wish they would make a pill, like a Viagra pill for women, that would make them really sexually aroused and intense and really kind of increase their sex drive, because they have that. The guy goes, really? What's it called? He goes, listening. Yep, it's called listening. Yeah. He goes, when we take our partners for granted, and we really, this is what Gottman says, so I'm quoting Gottman here. He says, when we approach our partners in a way that says to our partner, when you're not feeling well, or you're in a bad mood, or you're depressed, or you have some of these negative things, I don't want to be around you. Go somewhere else, get positive, and then come back to me. And oddly enough, that doesn't create a whole lot of want to be around you, because our partner has to be the one I can go to. I'm not saying I'm just going to go but just listen. I got in this trouble. I had to learn how to do this like everybody else did. And it took years of failing before I really learned how to do this. My wife would come home, and I'd say, hey honey, how was your day? How was your day? And I really wanted to know. And she would say something like, she would tell me about this other gal she was working with, and it was a high level of conflict, and boy, she's really out to get me, and it was just conflict, right? And as a man, I go, ooh, and a therapist, I go, ooh, I can help you fix that. So why don't I give you some solutions? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Why don't you do this? Remember to focus on you. This is a her issue, not a you issue. How do you think she took that?
She was pissed.
She was pissed off. What did she want to do? Well, she wanted to beat me up. What did she want me to do?
Just listen.
She wants you to listen.
She just wanted me to listen to her day and express some level of empathy that she had a rough day.
Like, oh, baby.
Baby, hey, I'm sorry about that.
Let me cook dinner tonight.
Yeah, you want me to get my baseball bat and Nancy Kerrigan that gal? I mean, that's because that's really what she wanted. She wanted me to stop my day and to sacrifice my time and the things that were important to me and make her feel like she was more important than me. And I do that now. And I try to. And I don't always succeed, nor does she, but we're successful couples, those masters of marriage, as opposed to the disasters of marriage. Acknowledge and take personal responsibility when they fail. They do not engage in contempt. He calls with the 4 horsemen. Did we do the 4 horsemen?
We
We talked about them. I'm going to talk about what those are. Gottman calls the 4 horsemen of divorce. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. John Gottman, over 40 years, 50 years almost of research, is so good at what he does. Within 5 minutes of meeting a couple, within a 94% accuracy. And I'm going to repeat that because it is, nobody can do half of what this guy can do. Within 5 minutes of meeting a couple, within a 94% accuracy, he can tell you if your marriage is going to last, if your marriage will survive. And he called what he calls, he has come, over his research, when he said we were trying to notice certain things, he said there's certain things that these disasters of marriage did that were the greatest predictors of divorce. But he tagged, obviously it's a biblical reference, he calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Any religious people in here can tell me what the 4 horsemen are?
Death, famine, war,
Pestilence.
and pestilence.
Yes. So, of course, he's talking about how toxic and pathological these things are to marriage. There's one in here, I'll describe this. What's that?
Is he married?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know who he married? Therapist. He was, Dr. Gottman originally started out, he was a mathematician. MIT. Brilliant man. Picked up a psychology book and goes, ooh, that's really interesting. Went back and became a psychologist.
What the hell?
Yes, brilliant man. Brilliant man. And very sweet. Little Jewish guy, always wears his yarmulke wherever he goes during speeches. If you guys want to, if you want to increase your marriage, the success of your marriage, and just becoming more aware of the thing, it's not that I'm doing these things. Let me be clear. Everybody does these things in their marriage or in their relationship. So I don't want to catastrophize and go, oh my God, we're never going to make it, honey. We're doing these things. It's not that you do these things. For each of these horsemen, John Gottman has what he calls antidotes. This is the poison, and there's an antidote to doing these things. For example, let's say criticism. This is where he says, essentially what you're saying is, people don't actually say this, but they might as well be saying this no matter what they're saying to their partner. In our relationship our relationship would just work better if you would just realize that I'm perfect and you need to change. So if you would just start doing these other things, and if you would change the way you do this, and if you would change the way you do that, then we would be fine.
Is it the you?
Yes.
The you.
Yes, the nastiest, the dirtiest word you could say in a fight is you.
Yes.
You. Because this
There's criticism.
leads to this. Defensiveness. When you start attacking, it's an attack, no matter how gentle it is, and it's not always screaming and yelling and throwing, and you're just like your father, and all. It's not necessarily all this really hateful shit. It's not. Sometimes it can sound almost passive-aggressive with how it comes out. But criticism is, when I'm criticizing you, I am making you responsible for the evil that befalls our relationship. Right? I am not taking any responsibility for this. You really need, if you would just go to therapy. What should I be saying?
Why don't we?
If we should just go to therapy. We, change the you into a we. Because you has no personal accountability. Defensiveness is, which leads to defensiveness. Defensiveness is I'm justifying. I am explaining to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. Well, I only called you a bitch because you started screaming at me and you're nagging me incessantly. Does there exist a reason that makes it acceptable for me to call you that?
No.
No. I don't care why you're calling me a bitch. I care that you're calling me a bitch.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I don't care why. I mean, I care, but I don't care. I just don't do it. So now when defensiveness happens is I'm justifying a dysfunctional or unexplainable behavior. And I don't know about you, but with me, best defense is a good offense. So if I'm defending myself, the best way to defend myself is to start attacking you. So it just becomes this vicious cycle. And it will not be long before this happens. Contempt. And here's what contempt sounds like. You're stupid. You're just such a loser. Contempt can take, that's insulting. I'm attacking you and your character. I'm not talking about the issue anymore, if you would just change and do this and this. I'm attacking you. Now, contempt, as Gottman says in one of his lectures, many of his lectures,
That was the criticism.
criticism is us, well, you know, if you would just change a little bit, if you need to change, I'm making you accountable for change.
And it's not belittling.
I'm not necessarily belittling you, but I'm criticizing your behavior.
Contempt is more belittling.
Contempt is, I'm attacking you. I'm not telling you, we're not talking about an issue. If you would just, criticism would be this. If you would just take out the trash like I asked you to, if you would put your dishes in the sink like I asked you to, we wouldn't fight. And if we're not fighting, I'm not calling you a name and you're not throwing stuff at me, and we would be closer together. That's criticism. Contempt is, you're just stupid. You're just like your mom. None of your family amounts to anything. Why would I think you would? That's contempt.
So
That's the
would that,
belittling.
Yeah, that's hitting below the belt. What's that?
so would that be considered indictment of abusive relationships? With those four?
Yes, yeah, very much abusive. Now, I put a star next to this one because of the four. Contempt is the greatest predictor of divorce. If this is present, this is the greatest predictor. Now, let me say this. Contempt can be a very passive thing. It can be a very passive thing. As Gottman says in the example he gives, and I love it. He goes, oh goodness, what was the example he used? He said something about, he said correcting someone's grammar. So I could care, if my wife says, I could care less about that. Excuse me, honey. You couldn't care less
Right, you
about
couldn't.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Guilty. I do that to my wife all the time. I'm an academic, can't help myself, but it is a form of contempt because really, without saying it, what I am subliminally saying is,
Your grammar side.
I'm here and you're down here.
Mhm.
Right? That's really kind of what I'm doing. I'm showing contempt for your lack of education and making myself feel superior somehow. And guess what? I don't know about you, but in any relationship, I don't like feeling under someone's thumb. It's amazing to me how much of us manage our relationships. We're happy doing this to our partner, keeping them under our thumb, but we don't like it. And when we start feeling like that, we get a little antsy and irritable. But we're happy to do it to them. It's a very hypocritical type of thing. To be contemptuous of others, but not to be contemptuous. Yes.
Is that more seen in men or women?
Contempt is both. It is without equal in both.
Casually gonna make my boyfriend take this class.
Yes.
With you.
I would love to get the college here to let me teach an actual relationships marriage course. And then another one on parenting.
I'd come. Would that be an Olympic though?
I don't know.
I know they tried to do that in my high school and they almost succeeded. They just didn't have signatures. But couldn't you petition for a class like that?
Well, I could. I've got some work to do. But anyway, let's come back to this. We've got a lot of stuff to go. Stonewalling. This is a way, it's a power play. It's a power play. Stonewalling. It's a way to, I'm going to usurp or take over the authority in this relationship by controlling this conversation. And how I control this conversation is by ending it. So right in the middle of a conversation, we're done. And you're controlling it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there going,
The fuck?
yeah, how are you gonna, now, sorry honey, very early on in our relationship, like anything else, now she's not the only one who's doing dysfunctional stuff, okay? I had to learn how not to be a yeller, because I was a yeller, now I bark, hey, and then I come back down, or try to, okay? I'm a barker, but just to get attention, a little bit, and I'm not saying everything I'm doing is right, But what she would do is she would say she goes, you're seeing red. You're seeing red.
I remember you said that.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna engage in this, I'm not gonna do this right now. So she would get up and go to bed.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah, I told you about that.
Yeah.
And to sleep, and she would go to sleep. Physiologically, you can't have this system kicking in. You know, and I would go, how could you go to sleep right now? I want to talk this out. It's not even that I want to call you horrible names, but how can you do that? Did we talk about pursuer distancer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We did.
The
And everyone,
chaser
like, yeah,
runner.
she was distancing and I was pursuing. And again, the harder I chase you, the harder you run.
You're harder, you run, right.
And if I'm diligent and stubborn enough to keep chasing you, I will catch you. How do you think that's received?
That never works.
Literally never worked out well.
So that's why you stopped pursuing.
You can't
There's a
back to
difference.
it.
There is a difference between stonewalling and intentionally, effortfully, and consciously saying, right now, we're so emotionally charged that this isn't going to work right now. It is best because this system is kicked in. And this isn't the time to fight. When is the worst time to manage crisis?
When you're in.
When you're in it. I want you guys to take that phrase with you. Trademark, Dr. Qual Incorporated, not be used without the express written permission of Major League Baseball, right? Or whatever. So, yes, the worst time to manage crisis is when you're in it. It would be weird, but I want you to do this tonight as an exercise. I want you to go home to your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever, tonight, and I want you, in a very calm way, how was your day, honey? How was your day? Great. Anything happen? Yeah, I'd like to sit down and I'd like to talk about what happens when you and I fight. And they'll be like this. Did something happen? No, literally nothing happened. Everything's going really well. That's why I want to talk about what happens when you and I fight. Don't allow it to become a fight, but really, think about this. I'm so upset, and we make emotional decisions and rational, logical decisions, and they don't work at the same time. So if I wait to make this real, well, I'm the man of the house, and that's kind of how I charged and feel in the moment, then I'm going to make a bad decision. Okay? Or screw this, I'm out of here. That's an emotional decision. That's not the goal of a fight. Just to end it.
The goal of fight is to be over.
Yeah. So what happens? I mean, what do we do? It's important to know what you're currently doing when you fight. What do we do when we fight? What do I do? Tell me what I do when we fight. And you might not be aware of it. You might go, I mean, I've never told you this, but like, you like start pointing like, ooh, really, I do that. Ooh, I don't want to do that. But you have to, here's the thing, when somebody asks you a question, it would be a hell of a thing to go, tell me what I do when I fight. And then they go, oh, you totally do this. No, I don't.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't ask a question you don't want to know the answer
And
to.
then get
Basically,
defensive.
instead of listening to respond, listen to understand.
Understand.
You get defensive.
Hello.
And they're going to say, well then, bye.
Right, why'd you ask?
If you ask it, you have to be willing to take personal responsibility. That's what a master of marriage does, as opposed to a disaster of marriage. I don't want to do those things. I have to go into that conversation and ask that question, willing to hear that answer. I have to be willing to hear and take responsibility and go, thank you, I appreciate that. I don't want to do that. I don't want us to fight. I don't want us to tear each other apart. But I have to be willing to hear some hard information. That's hard for that person to tell me that. It's tough. Maybe not for my wife, but it's tough for a lot of people to tell something critical of their spouse. Just kidding. We got a question, Jacob.
What if you are single?
What if you're single?
He's like,
Then here's the good part. You're not bringing any dysfunction to a relationship yet. So when you get into a relationship, you can be aware to keep these things out of the relationship. And when you start a relationship with somebody, if you start to see these things very early on, creeping in to your relationship, you can talk about them. Don't criticize each other. Say, hey, look, I noticed that. I notice statements in therapy all the time. I really do. And I want you to say, because I notice statements are powerful because they don't have a call to action. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just saying, hey look, I noticed that when we fight, we end up screaming at each other. I don't want to scream at each other, because that's never worked for us. I haven't asked you to do anything. I just said I noticed that we do this. And then just stop talking. And allow the other person to respond. Go, because they'll probably say something like, yeah, I noticed that too, and you're right, that doesn't work for us. So what should we do? What do you think we should do? Maybe we could give a gentle reminder to each other. I'm a huge fan of I notice statements and gentle reminders. In therapy, I will ask them to say, this is a gentle reminder, which means this is something we talked about. I'm not being critical. It's a gentle reminder. You're not supposed to yell. That's not a gentle reminder.
Right.
Hey, look, gentle reminder. I noticed that we're starting to raise our voices. We're starting to yell or scream a little bit. I don't want to do those things. We talked about this.
You know what? I'm naturally like that.
What's that?
I like, before we even talked about all this, I naturally do that. Like if there's something, it doesn't matter who I'm talking
Hey.
to. It's like,
We're at like an 8. I need us to be at like a 4.
yeah, I'm like, I feel like, we get a little bit heated. Let's
Yeah.
shut it down.
Which is good, because that's what a master of a relationship will do.
Yeah, no, learned this from my previous marriage, but I've grown accustomed to, I really don't wanna fuck this one up, but, like, every time we have an argument, which is not very often anymore, I've like 5-10 minutes later, we'll talk about it, because we'll go back and like, go over the argument and what we do, what we don't like each other doing. Because I had a really bad habit of just leaving.
Right.
Because that stemmed from my previous marriage, and that was one of the quickest ways to get away from her crazy ass. And so that dwelled into this relationship, so we talk about that. But now it's gotten to the point where if I feel like I'm going to leave because I'm angry and I don't feel like we're getting anywhere, or she feels like she's not getting anywhere with me, we'll just look at each other. One of us will either say, we need to take a break, and then we'll hug each other, give each other a kiss, and then we'll go sit in a separate room for like 10-15 minutes, and then come back and just talk.
When it comes to these two systems interacting from a physiological standpoint, there's a specific time frame that once my sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and I start to, my respiration, breathing, all those things start to increase. There is a number on how long it takes in the absence of a stimulus, so you can't still be engaged with each other. We have to disconnect, and I've got to be by myself for a moment, and it's 20 minutes. Write that number down, please. It's 20 minutes. After you get away from the stimulus that is causing the sympathetic nervous system to kick in, before my parasympathetic nervous system will allow my body to return to a calm state. If I'm in a calm state, it would be weird because you can't yell when you're in a calm state.
Right.
Hey honey, give me a Coke! And it, like I can't be mean when I'm doing that. It'd be weird. Yeah.
So is there ways to cope? Like I know some couples, like when they're arguing, they'll hold each other's hands, or some of them will hug and they'll look right in each other's face and try to have a serious conversation, or like with the argument. And
Yes,
kind of defuse it.
there are a lot of different things. Here's how I conceptualize this, because the first two questions I get married in marriage therapy, every time. Are you married? It's very important to them. Why?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, how do you know what you're talking about? I'm gonna get marital advice from somebody who's never been married?
Right.
Now, a lot of therapists will say, well, you don't have to be a dog to be a vet, but it helps. Yes. Do they have access? Have you practiced the things you're preaching? It's like when I do therapy for somebody who's going through drug abuse. Same thing. They want to know, have you ever been through recovery? It's very important to them. How are you going to tell me to manage my anxiety when you have no clue what you're talking about? It's very important to
When you
them.
haven't experienced it.
You haven't experienced it, so I mean, you can't, when you say, I know what you're going through, which is a very powerful statement for a therapist to say to somebody, they're gonna go, how do you really, you don't know what I'm going through. You're full of it, and that cuts our relationship. So expressing empathy and sharing an experience with someone is incredibly powerful and important in my business. So, are you married? Yes. Do you fight with your wife? Oh yeah. Yeah, you fight. But again, we had to learn how to fight. There were certain things that my wife and I did very early on in our relationship that didn't work for us. And we had to sit down, when we weren't in crisis, by the way, and say, you know, we yell, we'll stonewall each other, I'll start defending my position. These things started to creep into our marriage. But the reason why we are masters of marriage is because we said, these things have no place in our relationship. They don't. You agree and I agree, so out the door they go. A long fight with my wife now. A long fight.
Said 5 minutes.
It's about 5 minutes. That's a long fight. Because none of this shit is our goal. And we know that. At some point, we will step back and go, what the hell are we doing? There's a phrase in a movie I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. There's a phrase in a movie, it holds very special meaning and context for us. Please don't do this in your relationship because it doesn't have the same context and it will not have the same effect. And I don't want any of you to come up and rush the stage slapping me. The movie 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Love that movie.
There's the scene where he's going home with that girl from the bar and she's plastered drunk driving the car.
Yeah.
And she's telling, he's like paralyzed with fear, he's just trying to survive. And she's telling the story and she goes, oh, I was talking to this girl and I said, you're the bitch. Like that. So when my wife and I fight, don't do this. Because for us, we'll start fighting and we're serious and you need to do that. And I'll just look around and there's a quiet, that uncomfortable 4-second quiet when you're not yelling at me and I'm not yelling at you. And I'll just go, you're the bitch. And she'll go, you're the bitch. And then we're cool. And then we're fine. As Gottman talks about in his research, the difference between masters of marriage and disasters of marriage is so small. It's, you want to know what it's a big difference. 60 seconds of humor. 1 minute can make or break your marriage when it comes to those things. But the reason I say don't you do it is because that doesn't hold the context that it does for us. We shared that movie, we watched it, on the DVR, we back it up. You're the bitch. You're the we're making dolphin noises we can't breathe. We're like, because we can't get any oxygen. So, what Gottman talks about is you have to have that humor in your marriage. You have to. Yeah, questions?
I know there's so many ways to resolve a conflict.
Yes.
Would cooking for them?
Absolutely, with cooking. Now, yes, can I make food?
You better.
These girls are like, you can cook for me any day. We're always cool. Yeah, no, yes, but
You cook it?
See, now- Yeah, go ahead.
And sometimes when I
Ladies.
usually get really don't want to cuss so bad. I when I get so mad, I start cooking, and those days did a really good job cooking too.
Yes, everybody has something that is a very cathartic activity for them as an individual. And then we have shared cathartic experiences. There are things that my wife and I do where it really almost doesn't matter how bad our day was, how stressful the week was, money's tight, or it doesn't matter. Whatever problem is kind of weighing on us, there's always something that she and I know we can do. And we have several activities that we can do. It might be a casino night. It might be going to the bar. It might be going to Flick's Brew House and watching a movie and having whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Cooking, going jogging, bike ride, whatever it is, there are things that couples can do almost to the point where we don't even have to speak, but we can engage in this activity together, have some release, get over our issue, and then revisit it. But again, there's a difference between sweeping something under the rug and putting something on the back burner. If I put something on the back burner, the implication is I'm doing it consciously, but I have to come back to it. I have a saying, in my marriage, in therapy, and everything. Old business before new business. You and I aren't discussing anything else until we talk about that other stuff, because I refuse to let something hang over me and lord over me like a dark cloud follow me around. I refuse to participate in that dysfunction. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, what about the couple, or like the male versus female over text message?
What?
What do you mean?
My boyfriend,
Okay.
experience. He will fight with me like almost like World War III on text message.
But won't do it in person.
Won't do it in person. Oh, no, like, come on, like, you know, I'm
There's
trying to get him
Yeah.
to talk to me, and he's like, oh, you know, that was a little bit ago. And I'm going,
He gets, there's a phrase, it's a long word, it's called obsequious. Okay? Being obsequious.
That
So
just
being
sounds
Who
obsequious.
felt that?
Obsequious, hold on a second. Being obsequious is kind of like during conflict, it's like, oh, please don't hurt me.
That's like-
whatever you want, and really kind of obsequious. To be kind, to behave in that really kind of kowtowing way. So for him to do that, but then I would say, I'm
Would
not
you say
providing
he's
you with any
Right, understand.
terrible. If somebody was like that per se in my office, I would have him say some things to you. You need, and with your permission, I want you to say these things to me. I don't want you to say hurtful things. I don't want you to call me names or anything. But I want you to say, what I might have him do is, even though it might be a little dysfunctional, I might have him read his text that he wrote to you out loud. To you.
See, I've done that. I've done that.
Yes.
And
I just want you to read it to me. I don't want to fight about it. We're not going to resolve the conflict. I just want you to say what you wrote to me. And he probably struggled or refused to do it.
Would you say
And the
that's
reason
better?
is, then what will you say to me?
Right.
Then I want you to start texting me things you don't have a problem saying to me.
Because I'm one of those people, he
Yeah.
won't do it. I'm like, you pussy, come on. Like, I try to get
Yeah.
into.
Well, could that be something maybe childhood related, that the way that's the way he copes with?
He's a-
I dare not diagnose her boyfriend on camera and in front of other people. But yes, there is a high probability that, look, the reality is, the things that we do, again, we engage in this goal-directed behavior. The things that we do, we learn how to do somewhere.
Right.
At some point, he learned that he's got the confidence to say something here, which is a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
But I don't have near the same confidence, almost a polar opposite type of
Right.
confidence face to face.
Could that be considered social anxiety, or
See,
or in a
he's-
form of public speaking?
Yeah,
He
could, but
is one of those people where he won't say anything to anybody. So
Yeah.
it's like, you can say it over text, but you can't say it to me.
yeah.
How's this gonna work?
I don't want to say any more on that right now. Anyway. All right, why don't we do this? We have, do you guys want a break or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we'll take a 5-minute break, okay? Come back, and the reason 5 minutes because we'll try to get out of here a little early today, okay? All right, 5-minute break, go, go, go.